Hello, welcome to Connie Talk, and I'm Connie Leung. Today, we are very delighted to have Honorable Robert Lee Wai-wang, member of Hong Kong's 7th Term Legislative Council, in our show today. Thank you, Robert, for accepting our invitation.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, as a good friend, that we have been working with each other at CGCC for so many years. So happy that we have this platform to do the interview for you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Robert is the lawmaker from the Financial Service constituency in the Legislative Council. He's also the Chief Executive Officer for Grand Capital Holdings Limited, and being very busy in his different roles, he's also serving as the chairman of the Hong Kong Securities Association. And I understand your term is until September this year, right?
Yes.
Good. That can free you up to do more things for other parts of the community in future.
Hopefully, yes.
Yes. So let's go into our interviews because I know that you have a lot to share with us today. Yeah, so as the first one, you have recently made a proposal to the LegCo on diversifying the capital markets and expanding the range of financial service in Hong Kong. Would you like to elaborate more on this for us?
Sure. So recently in our Legislative Council meeting, I moved a motion mainly with two parts. One is to further diversify the financial services products and services offering within Hong Kong. And the second part of it is for a lot of medium to small enterprises, more local companies, for them to upgrade and transform their existing businesses. So the motion is really coming from a standpoint of getting a consensus and other LegCo members to support the initiative for financial services, which in the past has traditionally kind of been focused in IPOs and within the capital market space, the traditional securities business. But Hong Kong, obviously, in the national 14th five-year plan, one of the 8 centers is international financial centers.
Yes.
So besides just the traditional securities business, we also hope to promote more futures and derivatives, commodities, asset management, corporate finance, and even some of the newer products, including virtual assets.
Right.
So I think for our industry, it's important to be more diverse and to open different lines of businesses.
Yes.
And in terms of the upgrading and transforming, for a lot of traditional businesses, they need to move more towards a digital transformation and to automate and make their existing businesses more efficient. And also, in line with the 14th five-year plan, it talks about internationalization of renminbi, asset and wealth management, as well as risk management. So
right.
For traditional brokers, some of them makes a lot of sense to go into these other areas to diversify their businesses.
For sure. And actually for the diversification, also in line with the development for the financial industry globally, that there are more products in the market that requires relevant technology to support for such development, right? So what about the crypto that you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, so I think it's in a wider space. Obviously, within LegCo, this is something that we've worked on. There was a bills committee that looked at the anti-money laundering and all of the rules and regulations related to that. And as part of that, we put into place a virtual asset service provider licensing regime.
So there'll be more brokers who will be able to handle crypto trading in future?
Yeah, so this is
going to work.
Sure. I think in the future there's actually already in place now is the licensing regime. So for financial intermediaries that want to trade these products and operate and exchange in this space, then they first have to get the relevant licenses. So I think for Hong Kong as a whole, we do try to be competitive, and as well as having a sound infrastructure and a transparent and open regulated markets, so that really businesses and investors from all over the world can come to Hong Kong in a safe environment to engage in this business. But even in a wider sense, besides just the virtual assets, I think the SAR government in Hong Kong has been working hard, and then they put out a policy statement earlier last year regarding their stance, and I think even a wider extent, even digital payments and Hong Kong dollar and renminbi,
yes.
Web3. There should be a more of an initiative for companies within different industries to push forward this kind of more innovative and tech related development going forward.
Well, I would say that for e-wallet, like for Hong Kong it's a new thing, but when I'm going to China, actually
Yes.
all I need is my mobile phone and I can handle all the payments, right? Actually,
exactly.
it's becoming literally a cashless economy.
Exactly.
So I would really hope that Hong Kong will be able to like do the same thing in the near future.
Exactly. This is what we're trying to push forward, and I think there's a lot of resources and there's a lot of thought going into this within the SAR government as well as the industry. So in my position, I do encourage and promote to push these policies forward, hopefully. Yeah.
Yes, that's very much needed. So, well, let's continue with our planned agenda. So as an international financial center, Hong Kong is also building itself as a global INT hub. Fintech is a sector of strategic focus of the SAR government and is investing a lot of resources to foster the growth of this ecosystem. How can fintech further boost financial services in Hong Kong?
So I think within the fintech space, finance has always worked very closely with technology in the history of finance. So even something as simple as providing market data and providing quotes in the early stages of finance, and I think algorithmic trading. I think every financial institution within their own business, they have a lot of hardware, software, and a tech focus to help them make better decisions, be more efficient, automate processes. So I think this is something that's heavily relies on the finance side and the technology side to work together. So in line with that, I previously mentioned pushing forward products and services that are conducive to this, obviously with virtual assets. But besides just this, I think the upgrading and transformation within firms. There are a lot of applications. For example, doing KYC. How can we be
more efficient?
more efficient and be
more.
Go
through the same thing.
Exactly. Be more compliant and at the same time make less errors, because if we're using technology to double check things,
background check, etc.
So then overall you're being more compliant and being more efficient. I think also besides just the regulation, it's also helping companies to move forward and in areas like research. I think with ChatGPT and things like that, right? So there's existing personnel, how can they better do their jobs and then maybe utilize technology to do what they're already doing, but in a more efficient, more compliant way. So that's going to be continue. For certain things within asset management and wealth management space, there are robo-advisors, there are analytical tools that you can use to provide a better service ultimately to clients. So this is going to be a trend, and then hopefully in Hong Kong we can develop a good environment to attract more fintech companies here to develop, and for traditional business to adopt some more of this tech related components, and also for these tech companies to come to Hong Kong and have more collaboration within traditional financial companies.
Well, the next question, if you're talking about fintech, then I would be thinking about who would be setting the standard for what is good and what not. So what is there any thoughts towards that?
Well, I think in terms of standards, it's a lot of what we do in finance is about setting standards. So within the HKEX, for example, operating and running an exchange is about standardizing products and also services and procedures. So I think setting standards, and then also creating a place where we can encourage more liquidity, more people to come to Hong Kong to fundraise and do IPOs, and of course across multiple asset classes. I mentioned just beyond the cash equities, we want to develop more derivative products, and I think there are certain aspects within commodities, for example, that we have traditional strengths in that I think can be pushed and explored further. So.
Very interesting. So there has been a trend globally that many countries in the world are trying to reduce dependence on the US dollar. As the world's largest and most important offshore RMB hub, how will Hong Kong further promote the internationalization of renminbi?
Right. So as I mentioned previously, within the National 14th Five-Year Development Plan, the internationalization is a key strategic initiative. And also from a product diversification standpoint, HKEX, in fact, will be launching the Hong Kong dollar renminbi dual counter trading. So this is a very important milestone. Although the infrastructure currently exists already to trade renminbi products, but I think this time around we're attracting 20 plus very sizable issuers and companies who...
Issuers means?
The companies that will be traded. So the companies participating in this dual counter, they represent close to about 40% of the overall trading activity of the market. Right?
Very significant.
So very significant, very large market caps, and also the structure of how they're implementing this. There's approximately 8 or so market makers, and in our LegCo work, we've already put in place a stamp duty waiver for these market makers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Very good incentive for people to buy the stocks then in
Yeah.
RMB.
Yeah, exactly. So I think for the market makers, the stamp duty will be waived, although for the general investing public, we'll still work on that. That's maybe another topic. But overall, I think the bottom line is definitely very high quality companies, large companies. There's a better structure in place to where there's going to be hopefully more liquidity in the marketplace to encourage people to invest. And I think whether it's retail investors or institutions or even governments across different regions, there is opportunities. I think the SAR government has visited Middle East, and we've been going to ASEAN countries. So. From an investment standpoint, it makes sense to diversify.
For sure.
So having renminbi in your portfolio, not just doing cash management or just doing the trading, but actually having more products that are reputable companies that have good liquidity. So from a long-term investment standpoint, it makes a lot of sense for these investors to participate and access these markets. So this is something that I think is a milestone, and also we hope to push forward with more resources going forward.
When is that going to be implemented?
June 19th is when we launch.
Very soon.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. So I bet the government will have a very good promotion campaign on this and encourage people to utilize more on this internationally, of course, not only Hong Kong.
Definitely.
Wow, I'm very much looking forward to that. That's the trend to go for, particularly with the current situation that we need to make RMB stronger to be more competitive in the market.
Right. And I think also for the investors is another option. And I think it's something that's going to be a long-term development, and in terms of having a diversification of currencies within an investment portfolio. Makes a lot of sense. And also for investors that are already currently holding renminbi, it makes sense to deploy them into more productive assets like stocks that are going to be listed on the HKEX.
Will that also have any effect to the QDII and KFII?
Well, I think the existing programs have been in place, and overall, I think our country is opening up, reforming, and for financial services is going to continue to be more and more liberalization. So this connecting of markets and products and structures will continue. So as we have seen in the past with Shanghai, Shenzhen Stock Connect, Mutual Fund Recognition, Bond Connects. So this is going to continue to be trend, and we look forward to opening up more markets, connecting more products and services for investors and issuers going forward.
Well, that's for Hong Kong as an international financial center, definitely giving very good opportunity for us to develop further.
Right, exactly.
Yes, yes. So currently, all securities listed on the exchange are subject to a stamp duty at the rate of 0.13% on the value of the transaction on both of the buyer and also the seller. How would you evaluate the impact of this?
Yeah, so this is something that having been in the LegCo office for about 1.5 years now, that I've talked about quite a bit. And I think I mentioned for the dual counter, that is something for the market makers, they've waived the stamp duty. But I think longer term, we need to really look at our competitiveness in Hong Kong. In 2021, when we increased the stamp duty, we didn't see it impact some of our trading. Of course, there are other factors as well. But it's very easy to understand in terms of the trading costs. And the lower the trading cost, the more we can encourage more liquidity in the marketplace.
The more active the market is.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that I'll continue to talk about. And I think if to the extent that we can lower trading costs and to evaluate our overall competitiveness, that's something that I think I do urge the SAR government to look at it. To the extent that it is suitable, I think we can make some modifications to encourage more liquidity in the marketplace. So overall, I would just say that there are a lot of listing reforms that are ongoing. We need to look at not just the initial primary market, but also secondary market to ensure there's trading and liquidity, and that will also attract more issuers to continue to list in Hong Kong, and then also to provide secondary fundraising opportunities and to conduct more business activities here in Hong Kong.
So for the transaction cost that we just mentioned earlier, in comparison to other key financial centers globally, is Hong Kong being competitive?
Well, I think the tax is certainly something that's pretty complicated, and I think there's a lot of components that it entails. But I would say that Hong Kong's structure currently is relatively higher compared to other major financial centers, as I mentioned. So to the extent that we can evaluate this and make it even more competitive, I think that will help the marketplace in terms of the secondary trading, and then encouraging more activities to be conducted here in Hong Kong. Again, I think there are a lot of reforms, whether it's from a trading standpoint, from listing, from different aspects. But I think my role is to serve as a bridge and gather all the feedback and the consensus from the financial services community, and then offer them to the SAR government and other key stakeholders, including HKEX, regulators like SFC, and that will continue to be something that I'll work hard to convey to all the key stakeholders.
We definitely see your effort and see that you have been putting so much effort in making the system a better one.
Thank you.
Yeah, and also talking about Hong Kong as an international financial center, the transaction cost is only a minute part of the whole system, right? So if they want to trade in Hong Kong, well, if they have the money, this is very minor. But having said that, with extra encouragement to increase the liquidity, it's a good plus to have.
Right, correct.
Yeah, and actually, as a person specialized in the trust industry and also Hong Kong Family Office, we understand that there is a new legislation has been passed. So this March, the Hong Kong government issued the policy statement on developing family office businesses in Hong Kong. It sets out the government's policy stance and measures on developing a vibrant ecosystem for global family offices and asset owners to be settled in Hong Kong. So what do you think are the strengths of Hong Kong in building a global family office hub?
So the family office, we've, as you mentioned in LegCo, put into, worked on the tax concessions, which as a result, I think hopefully will make us more competitive.
Yes, that's a very good one.
Yeah, so in terms of attracting more people to consider Hong Kong as a family office hub, I think within the Chief Executive's policy address, we have specific targets to attract more of these family offices this year.
Our mission.
Right. So as you mentioned, right, you're certainly a very seasoned professional within the trust space, and I think for a family office, we need not just the tax concession, but everything else, right? We have professionals, lawyers and accountants, financial intermediaries.
Diversified investment products.
Yeah, diversified investments. So I think a lot of things have to come into place for a place to be attractive in terms of being a family office hub. So the legislative, the things that we've done to make it more from a tax standpoint, competitive is important. At the same time, as I mentioned previously, having the investments access to global markets across multiple asset classes. Right. For families that are really looking to set up shop here, I think they also will look at overall governance and also risk management. So not just products and services to invest, but also to hedge, to fundraise, and also the component of trust. I think the estate planning and succession within family businesses. So all of these components, and of course Hong Kong being an international financial center, and then we also have common law in place in Hong Kong.
One country, two systems.
Right, one country, two systems. I think that's gives a lot of assurance for stability and in terms of certainty of how they can arrange their planning across the investing, across the estate planning and the various aspects, even governance. And so it's an overall picture that we're trying to make Hong Kong more competitive, more attractive. And so we're looking at all different aspects, and hopefully we can attract more family offices to set up here in Hong Kong. And we need financial intermediaries as well as trust companies and different expertise within this family office space. And hopefully we can work on getting more of them to set up here.
Well, actually, for mainland Chinese clients, I would definitely think that Hong Kong has its edge, other than the system, of course, that you have already put in place. But one very important thing for Hong Kong is official language is English plus Chinese. So for actually many of the correspondence we have with our client, and I think that applies to all a lot of our other practitioners as well, like using Chinese for the key means for communication with our mainland Chinese clients, and also like maybe some other Chinese living abroad, they will also find reading Chinese more convenient. I would think that is a very good competitive edge for Hong Kong that all the other jurisdictions cannot compare or cannot compete at the moment.
I certainly agree. I think with the professionals in terms of drafting different documents to govern how the entire family office can be run for different members within the family and within the corporate structure. So having lawyers and accountants and professionals that can work with a language that they're comfortable with. While having all of the legal protections that is in place, that is in Hong Kong. Absolutely agree. That's one of the very key components to making us being competitive in this space.
So as the key representative in the financial services for within the LegCo, what's your vision to the coming year for 2023 for the second half? Is there any thoughts to that? So as a final note to our interview?
Sure. I think I'm a new term member, so 2022 January 1st was the beginning of my term. I think the first year has been working hard to, as I mentioned, serve as a bridge, right? Gather all of the consensus within the community, and then also giving feedback to the SAR government. Going into the second year, I think is strengthening my role, and also delving deeper into obviously all of the regular financial services issues, but also overall, right? How can we push forward the economy and then improve livelihoods of residents in Hong Kong? So I think my office has tried to do some seminars that are within relevant to financial services. For example, there's a lot of investment scams, and then there's a lot of fraudulent activities from unlicensed platforms and things of that sort. So we organize seminars to find over 100 elderly people to educate them about some of these things, right? So things like that. I think trying to reach out and then telling the good story of Hong Kong overall. I think going to the second year, we're coming out of the pandemic. We're doing all we can to revive our economy. So I will continue to do that, continue to get feedback, and I welcome the industry or the Hong Kong various sectors to continue giving feedback how we can make Hong Kong an attractive place to work, to live, and to achieve our hopes and dreams.
We see and feel your hard work, and of course that's very much being appreciated.
Thank you,
Robert.
Thank you, Connie.
Thank you. So thank you very much for watching our show today. We have been having a very good conversation related to the financial services industry, and there will be more interesting speakers coming up in our show in future. So please stay tuned for our future show. Until then, see you next time. Goodbye.